BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Amy Canavan and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, kickstarting your day with all the essential news, views and analysis. It's Tuesday the 17th of September and here's what's happening today.
They're forcing teams into making errors that they don't want to make, and then they're also counter-pressing really well, but when that doesn't work they fall back into a block. I've been told that he's really into having the block. It's a 4-4-2 out of possession shape. No, this isn't too technical and nerdy.
We get technical and nerdy as we hear how Jimmy Thelin has turned Aberdeen around. Also, on the subject of game-changing analysis.
It's still loose there, and that is some hit from Danny Welbeck with his right foot. He's right-footed into the top corner. The copper stunned. Liverpool 0, Brighton 1.
Could investment from Brighton owner Tony the Lizard Bloom see Hearts scale up their ambitions? And what would the return of Dave King mean for Rangers?
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Plenty to get through this morning. Happy to say that I'm not doing it all alone. JG Bull will be joining us in a little bit, but for now, Daniel Caw from The Record is here. Good morning to you, Daniel. Tony Bloom's poker nickname is the Lizard. What would your poker nickname be if you don't already have one? This is an icebreaker for a Tuesday morning. It's 6:30. Come on.
Yeah, no. And first of all, morning, Amy. I do play poker. I wish I had a cool nickname like that. I really do, but just Daniel is sadly boring. I wish I could think of one on the spot that was anywhere near as cool as the Lizard.
So do I. I posed that question. I'll also play poker, but I don't have a nickname either. So once we finally get this podcast out the way, you can guarantee Daniel and I are thinking up our poker names.
We'll come up with one for each other.
We'll come up with one for each other. I like that. It's probably better listen as well. There is plenty to discuss with Daniel. And as I say, we're also going to hear from the Athletic stage JJ Bull about the tactical secrets to Jimmy Thelin's success at Aberdeen. But before all of that, let's quickly run through the latest Scottish football headlines. Celtic have reported a £13.4 million profit for the year to June. It's the third year in a row that they've been in the black and comes amid an increase in operating expenses and revenue. Hearts are reported to be in talks with Brighton owner Tony Bloom over a potential £10 million investment in the Tynecastle club. Former Rangers chairman Dave King says he is available to return to his former role and claims the Ibrox club is in crisis. This after John Bennett stepped down at the weekend for health reasons. And Dundee manager Tony Docherty has revealed that Scottish FA head of referees Willie Collum phoned him to discuss an incorrect decision not to award the Dark Blues a penalty in their 2-0 loss at Ross County on Saturday. Let's start with a couple of the stories in the headline there, Daniel. First up, what do we know about Tony Bloom's apparent interest in investing in Hearts?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we at this stage, we don't know a great deal about it, but the one thing that we do know, Amy, is that if involved in the deal, Hearts somehow get access to his recruitment bank or base, it's definitely a deal worth doing. I mean, you look at not only Brighton, which has been a roaring success, some of the players that they've signed for next to nothing. Moses Caicedo for 4 million, sold for 100 million. Mark Cucurella, 70 million. Alexis McAllister, Liverpool for 50 million. He's also got a minority stake in the Belgian side Union St. Gilles. I was terrible at pronouncing that.
I'm glad you went for it, to be honest.
They played Rangers a couple of years ago in the Champions League qualifiers. They've been a big success as well. So, look, you look at his track record and it certainly looks like a guy that would be good to be in business with.
How would Hearts benefit from a network like this? You mentioned not just Brighton, particularly Brighton, their analysis-driven recruitment model. Really, you rattled off some of the names there, and it's frightening the money that they've managed to bring in. That's obviously from the selling point of view, but some of the players that they've brought in at that same point as well is remarkable, and the fees that they've done so. But how would Hearts benefit from being in that sort of related almost to those clubs?
Well, actually, I know Hearts have had a really kind of troubled start to the season. They're bottom of the league. I thought Hearts, on paper anyway, recruited really well in the summer. Some of the players they signed were really, I thought that makes sense. Jan Danda, Blair Spittle, Penrice as well. But look, as I said at the start, see, if you get access to that recruitment bank, if you can bring in players for next to nothing, and I'm not saying Hearts would be shopping at the same table as Brighton, obviously they wouldn't, but I don't know. I keep, when I think about it, I just don't see what would the downside be for Hearts. I don't. Do you know what I mean? I know everyone will be wary of potential investors, wary of people coming in, but I just can't see why it would be a bad idea.
I think that's the word wary, isn't it? Because we're sort of seeing these relationships become a tad more popular, a tad more common in Scottish football. At least it was the Hibs and Bournemouth one that certainly got the ball really rolling in this, didn't it? And that had a few people raising eyebrows at their connection. We've obviously seen how that's kind of developed over the last year or so. Dundee as well, a sort of recent example. But how positive do you think these relationships are for the game in general? Yes, Hearts, as we're saying, can absolutely benefit from this, but is it setting the wrong sort of precedent across the country?
I don't know. I mean, I do understand that there's people out there that would say that it is it's not the most positive way to go forward. But again, look, if I am in Hearts boat, if I'm a Hearts fan, if I'm a Hearts stakeholder, I would look at this and go, the big figure of £10 million has been bandied about. Even if it's not £10 million coming directly into Hearts, how can it be bad to be linked up with a guy like Tony Bloom with the track record he's got? I'm sure he's not coming into Hearts or anywhere else to be a failure. I don't know. Like I say, maybe being really naive, but I can't really see where the downside is for Hearts at this point anyway.
There's plenty more discussion to be had on that for sure. Plenty more discussion surely to be had on this as well. Dave King has thrown his hat sort of loosely in the ring for the vacant Rangers chairman job. In short, Daniel, how realistic do you think his return to Rangers would be, especially remembering how negative his exit was last time round?
Well, I think listening to him kind of doing the rounds in the media yesterday, Amy, I mean, I think it's not very likely. I mean, he kind of, certainly the radio interview that I heard, he came on and just more or less said, the current incumbents are not very good. I'm the man to sort it out. And if you're in Rangers at the moment, you'd probably go, well, hang on a minute. That's you wouldn't be very flattered by that. And to be honest, I mean, again, I don't know about you, but I've kind of got Dave King fatigue. I'm sort of sick of it, and I just don't think he's the guy to take Rangers forward. Right, to be brutally honest, I think Rangers need someone fresh, someone to come in. It's not Dave King, to be perfectly frank. Yeah, I can't really put it more bluntly than that, I guess.
You mentioned some of or certainly the tone of that interview yesterday. I think most of us will have heard it now. As we sort of said at the top of the show, he says that the club are in crisis, they're lacking leadership, they're lacking basic management skills, and I think, this is a club right now who are also, they don't have a CEO, don't have a director of football. There are a lot of key positions and a lot of powerful positions needing to be filled. They're needing to be filled quickly, but they're needing to be filled correctly, aren't they? Because there is angst among the fans that, these appointments need to be right, but they also need to be happening pretty sharply.
Exactly. And you just said that, you just reeled off there, Amy, 3 or 4 huge positions within the club. We all know financially they're not in a great state. We all know about Ibrox. They're fortunately just getting back in there. But did Dave King talk about any of that? No, he came on and he kind of pandered, played to the galleries a little bit, talked about the world's most successful club tag, which I'm sure, Rangers fans have been proud of in the past. But is that really what's important at the moment? I don't know. It just struck me as someone who was playing to a part of the Rangers support rather than actually thinking what was in the best interests of the club and what is really needed at Rangers at the minute. And like I say, I could be completely wrong. I just don't think it's Dave King.
I'm sure there'll be plenty more to come out of this one. While Rangers and Hearts haven't had their troubles to seek in this season, one club where everything seems rather rosy right now is Aberdeen. The turnaround under new manager Jimmy Thelin has been remarkable and has seen them win their first 10 games of the season. To find out about the secret to his success so far and to get an insight into the tactics that have taken the Scottish game by storm, I caught up with Dons fan JJ Bull of The Athletic. JJ, we've had you on the podcast a good few times, but it must be the best time as an Aberdeen supporter that we've had you on. What a start to the season. How enjoyable has it been?
Very fun. It's been fun seeing us actually win games, but I think what I like more about it is that the way that they're playing is you can see there's a future in it and it's actually working. There's a clear style of play. Players are playing much better. There's nice passing. No one's launching it. It just feels good. Everything feels more professional. That's quite enjoyable to watch because I've not really had that for a while.
You say that. You've not had that from a while. You've not had the start like this season for a very long time. We are going to get to the tactical side of things with you. Obviously, that is why you're here. But just generally, I remember chatting to you just before the season started, sort of Jimmy Thelin had already been appointed. I think he maybe had a few friendlies under his belt. You'd done a bit of background on him from his time at Elfsborg. But just how impressed have you been by his start to life in the Pittodrie dugout?
Yeah, I didn't think it would happen so quickly. I thought it would take a bit of time and everyone would moan about it. I think it's helped having those competitive cup games against lesser opposition. I won't say, oh, sorry, but it's lower league, so it's fine. I think those fixtures have helped. I think a lot with new managers coming in, and this will sound very stupid, but you need to get the wins in for people to buy into it. If you start off, even if you know what you're doing, it doesn't win straight away, just people will start to doubt that you can get your message across, or players might not believe that you are what you're hired to do. And so that's definitely really helped. I mean, actually, when you win, everyone gets behind it and starts to love watching the games played. But like that will derail. Like, we can't win every single game forever in that league, so that's not going to happen. But I think you've seen like clear things put in place that are done by what's clearly a very good coach. Like the team looks really well coached, I would say. Like well coached in and out of possession as well. I thought McInnes's team was really well coached, but they played in a very different way to what this is. And that's nice seeing it. I think the way we're playing also as well is a lot of energy, is a lot of want to get the ball back, and I think that resonates well with the fans. People want to see that.
You mentioned there that McInnes's side was also a very, very well coached side, which they were, and hence why last season with Kilmarnock as well, he had that sort of success. But What is the difference this time around? I know you mentioned that in and out of possession, which I'm intrigued to get into as well. But two very well coached sides, but two very different sides still.
Yeah, I think McInnes is very pragmatic and had characters and well drilled, especially at set pieces. And I thought a lot of what McInnes did was you make yourself really hard to beat, and then you rely on individual talent to make the difference. So like players like Niall McGinn, Ryan Christie this season when he was amazing. You bring in individuals, like Johnny Hayes was especially useful at doing that. And then often they would win you the game with a random win. I remember Willow Flood once, like a terrible game that was awful to watch, like scored a pinger from like 30 yards, and that wins you the game.
Only as bad as Willow Flood, he tries to goal!
So that makes you look like a good manager, when that happens. But like if you're hard to beat, that gives you a good start. People, if you look at England, like Arsenal are hard to beat now. That's basically what they're good at doing. They're just really horrible out of possession to play against. And I think what Thelein's done since he's come in is, what I think you see quite clearly is there's real bravery on the ball. They don't just launch the ball forward. They play lots of long passes, and they count. I can't remember what the yardage counts as being a long pass. But a lot of long passes when there's the time to do it. They don't just do it instantly to get rid. If there's pressure, they accept the pressure and try and play through it. There's lovely little up, back, and throughs. That's a lot of people know what that is. It's, you play the ball forward, someone plays it back, someone then plays that back forward. You're basically trying to play a third man combination all the time. But there's like third man combination after third man combination, so you can play through lines quite quickly. And it also means that when you win the ball back, you have players in position to be able to pass out. So when someone wins the ball back, in the past, I think you have very few options. You might have the channel ball or back to the goalie, something like that. And very quickly, teams can push up on you. They sit back. Then when you start to go backwards, they push up on you and you have to launch it. You lose the ball. And then you get knackered just chasing it forever. But now there's quite so it's not that they press high or press in a mid-block or whatever, but the press changes on where it needs to be. They're all very good at pressing. I think you see Jimmy McGrath especially is working really well when he's pinning that team and just leading where that press should go. And so they're forcing teams into making errors that they don't want to make. And then they're also counter-pressing really well and getting round the ball quickly. But when that doesn't work, they fall back into a block. I've been told that he's really into having the block. It's like a 4-4-2 out of possession shape. I hope this isn't too technical and nerdy. But they go into that sort of shape, and then you block out in the middle. So as long as you don't let them play through the middle of you, that's what you want. So that you want to show them basically wide, and then you want to block to center of the pitch so you can try and play through. But it's the things that you've done really well is like how well they're counter pressing, so that you can play the ball forward long when you want to, because you know there'll be bodies in the right positions, instructed to do the right things to try and win that ball back. And then if that first phase doesn't work in the second phase, they've got the possession, drop back into the block and make it very hard to play against. And then you have things like those up, back and throughs and other combinations to get up the pitch. So you're seeing players that suddenly look like really, really good. I mean, there are new players in the team, so that's actually probably helped quite a lot with that. But the thing we've lacked for a long time is players who can pass the ball. I've watched so many games where, especially against like Rangers and Celtic, who we've obviously not played yet, where you just can't get a sequence of more than 4 passes in a row. And it's either, whether that's bravery, we'll find all this out later, but we'll find out whether it's bravery, whether it is just simple players in the right positions or being asked to play in a certain way, taking more time on the ball, like trying to play the risky pass rather than just taking the safe launching option. That's how you win games. That's how you really benefit, I think, is by trying to take your chances and do things with the ball rather than just launch and try and follow up lads, show some character. Like, it's not all just that.
It's a lot of information, which is very accurate, because when you think of it, it all sort of makes sense in the way that Aberdeen have been playing. But how has Thelin managed to do this in such a short period of time? What is the secret to this? How has he managed? You mentioned there that, yes, he has brought in some new players, which you said was going to need to happen. But I guess as well, I hope some of our viewers may be watching, not just listening, and they can see the Shinnie shirt behind. You're seeing a rejuvenated Graham Shinnie. How has he brought this this confidence, this calmness in particular among these Aberdeen players? I guess it's sort of the age-old question, and maybe the million-dollar question, but just what has he managed to do? There's definitely like a character change in that side as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what he's done specifically. Like, it's very hard to find out what anyone does in coaching other than just putting on sessions. But I'd imagine the quality of those sessions, like what I've heard is that he's basically a very good coach, and he has 2 other coaches with him who are really high-level coaches. And shock horror, if you bring in people who are actually good coaches, who have new ideas, or who don't just there's a churn of managers who all do exactly the same thing. They all know how, all those managers in the past and the present know how to set up a team. Everyone knows how to set up a team. They know how to make them defend in certain ways and do whatever you want. But what I think with Thelin is it's something slightly different to what we've seen so far. But crucially, it's just worked from the start because we've had good performances and good wins against lower level teams. We're still competitive. There's a bit of a lack of pressure, I think, because of how bad last season was. And people just want to enjoy watching the team. So because they're playing nice football and you can see it's working, even if we'd lost to Motherwell, or Motherwell got back in the game, I could have seen that going 2-2 in the weekend. I could have seen them got back into that. And they missed a few big chances. So it could easily have been a draw. I think you still see that what's happening is that the team is getting better. And so I'd imagine what he's done is just drill, this is how we're going to win the ball. These are our principles. Drill that into people. I've read that behind the scenes he's done these classic things you see where you make people have lunch together and things like that. That's it's a classic one. But things like that, like little respect, like cleaning up the picking up the cones and stuff after training. I can't remember if that's definitely one that's happened, but it's that kind of example of things. We're trying to make the players appreciate what it is they're doing a bit more, like making them go towards the crowd at the end of games, just trying to create a bit of a connection between manager, fans, players, in the stadium, so you make that a more exciting place. And that all feeds into what you saw with all the cool fireworks and smoke and stuff before the Motherwell game. It was so cool, So it seems to get carried away with it. I certainly am not. I think it's really fun just now. But I think it all ties into each other. Every part of the club's probably is quite aligned at the moment, and that's also probably really helped him.
It looks like a league winning celebration, that pyrotechnic show against pre-match.
No, not yet.
We're getting there. We'll get you back on in 6 months' time for that. When we did have you on back in July, you said the ceiling sort of for Aberdeen is 3rd or 4th. I'm sure a few right now will be thinking that the ceiling is higher than that. But the momentum right now, it is all going Aberdeen's way, isn't it? You also said, obviously, that the cup competition's got to be reaching the latter stages. That's what comes this weekend. Then it's the real test, isn't it? Because there's Celtic, Rangers, there's Dundee United, there's Hearts, all in that really quite hectic period. That's when this Thelin test is really going to get underway.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can really tell. I'd like to see how he approaches the Celtic game, especially because there's no right or wrong way to take that on. People often moan about not having a go at them, but sometimes the best way to do it is to try and absorb pressure and hit them on the counter. I don't know what he'll do, and I'd be interested to see that. I think it's a good time right now. Rangers have started quite poorly, so they're a bit vulnerable, and I think that gives you a bit of optimism to think, maybe we can keep going. There is a decent squad there, but I think there's no point getting carried away with it. The most, like, a successful season would be, really successful would be finishing third and winning a trophy, one of the cup knockout things. I think Thelein's football is better suited to league seasons. There's more risks taken in the way we play, and so therefore in cup competitions you might suffer a little bit. It's why it's like managers like Derek McInnes, so when he played at Aberdeen, was very risk averse, and you get individual moments to win things, and that's quite good for knockout competition. And I think you see that quite a lot with managers who are successful generally. But Thelein's football at the moment looks like it'll be good over the course of a season. There's a half-decent squad there, could work on it. I mean, I would like to say we'll finish second or first, but it's not going to happen. Rangers should catch up and come through with it. But you never know, things happen. That's what makes football quite special, is that can happen now and again. So, yes, we will. This is the bit you can clip out. Yes, we will win the league. I am convinced. It's Leicester all over again.
There we go. I think that is where we leave it with JJ Bull. I think that is the perfect line. Thank you very much, as ever.
Thanks very much.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Just quickly off the back of that, Daniel, cracking hearing from JJ Bull as always. Just how impressed have you been by Jimmy Thelin and Aberdeen so far this season? No matter what, 10 games unbeaten, or 10 games on a winning run as well. That's no mean feat.
Rarefied air that even Sir Alex couldn't boast about. I mean, I think like most Scottish football fans, I'm well beyond impressed. I'm stunned, to be honest, that he's made it 10 wins from 10. I was thinking about this actually, Amy, that last night, that see, roughly since the turn of the century, you go around other leagues in Europe, there's been a shock winner in almost, I was looking at almost every league. There's been at least one bizarre, completely out of left field league winner. Leicester in England, there's been Montpellier, Lille in France, Alkmaar in Holland, Wolfsburg and Leverkusen in Germany. There's a few more. Look, I know the chasm between the Old Firm and the rest is just that, it's giant. But you think, even statistically, there'd be one season where everything, it's the perfect storm for a club like Aberdeen. I'm not saying it's this season, but maybe it is. Who knows? I mean,
it's a very backhanded way of saying it's this season. I tried to get JJ Bull on it as well, and he it sort of looked like I had a gun to his head at times when he was saying, yes, we will split the Old Firm, but you're right. If it's going to be any season, they've certainly made a start to it being this season. But somebody or some team that will have something to say about that is, of course, Celtic. And before we go, they take on Slovan Bratislava in their opening Champions League match on Wednesday. Daniel, how much excitement is there about this game, the new format? And given the new format, just how important is it that they get off to a winning start with this rather lucrative looking home tie?
It feels kind of strange to say about a Champions League tie, but Celtic have to win. They have to win this game. And in the opening Champions League game, Celtic have got an abysmal record. They've never won in their opening game in the Champions League. They haven't even scored a goal in the game in 18 years, 8 attempts. So, with all due respect to Slovan Bratislava, I saw reports yesterday that Celtic squad is worth 20 times more than theirs. Celtic couldn't have handpicked a better opponent at home, the opening game. And I know Brendan Rodgers will say, look, we've got the Champions League finalists away, we've got Aston Villa away, we've got the Europa League holders away. But see, at home, Celtic should be targeting at least 3 victories from 4, starting with this one on Wednesday night. If they can't beat Bratislava, I don't know where they go from here. But I think they will.
It's a huge game, and we will of course be back tomorrow to build up to cover it in its entirety, and we'll also be back on Thursday to no doubt pick the bones of it. We will be here with the Scottish Football Podcast every single day, not just tomorrow and not just Thursday. So to be alerted when new episodes drop, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on your phone. My many thanks go to Daniel Caw and JJ Bull for joining me, and thank you for listening. But that's all we've got time for, so until tomorrow, bye bye.
This is the shocking moment English football has been dreading.
My name is Moses Swabu, and I used to be a professional footballer, but then I got in deep with organised crime and became a match fixer operating in the English League.
A match-fixing investigator has highlighted 2 matches he says appear to have suspicious betting patterns.
How honest are you going to be with me?
This is 100%. Join me for Sports Strangest Crimes presents Confessions of a Match Fixer. Listen on BBC Sounds.